Okay, hello. So we'll be talking about, slides are coming up, I think. We'll be talking about a platform for multimodal corpora, for spoken language corpora, for audiovisual language corpora, whatever your terminological preference. And start by giving a little bit of background to the projects, the corpora, the user groups. Then I'll give you a very brief introduction to the platform. And then we'll come to the actual topic of this talk, namely the architecture consisting on the one hand of workflows, on the other hand on things that have been put on top of other things. So the background to this platform is that we wanted to develop something that can be used to make audiovisual or multimodal or spoken language data accessible, and that is flexible with respect to how or where the data are stored, what types of corpora you have under that heading of audiovisual language corpora, and most importantly, that can be adapted to different user groups and usage scenarios, because those differ a lot for this type of resource. Originally, this was a project funded by the German Research Council, involving the Institute for the German Language in Mannheim, the University of Leipzig, and the University of Hamburg, where we developed the first version and the first installation of that platform. What Anne is going to be presenting was mainly developed at the University of Hamburg under the name of HZSK, Hamburg Center for Language Corpora Corpus Services. Then the funding ended, but I did a little bit of contract work via linguistic bits for developing an instance of that platform for the University of Austin and another one for the Université d'Orléans. And since October 2024, we're both at the Center for Assistive Technology at the University of Duisburg-Essen, where we're doing further development and another installation of this platform. So I'm going to rush you through this very briefly. This is data that people work with in a qualitative approach, often, so being able to browse the data, being able to read, to listen to watch audio, video, and so on is very important. So the platform has components for doing just that. I'm going to demonstrate one way of presenting transcripts in this platform. This is a color-coded transcript. In the middle, you have a density viewer. You have video with subtitles on the right-hand side. You have synchronized playback, so when you double-click into the transcript, everything will run in sync. You can navigate in this transcript through a lemma frequency list, but also through a local query. Yeah, and speaking of queries on entire corpora, you can do CQP queries on all annotation levels. You can combine queries on the actual language data with queries on metadata, and you can recontextualize everything that you found. So you can go from a keyword in context concordance to the transcript, to the recording, to the metadata, and so on. So you start with a query. You can do this for one corpus or for several corpora. You get the result as a quick. And then you have several actions at your disposal. For example, you can play back media for that hit in the corpus. You can fold out transcript context to get an idea of what's happening at this point in the recording. You can display still images if this is a video corpus, and so forth. Yeah, as I said, the first installation of this was at the Institute for the German Language, for example, for the research and teaching corpus of spoken German, for several variation corpora. Then we had one at the University of Austin for the Texas German Dialect Project. We're right now in the process of getting this one ready. This is the Enquête sociolinguistique d'Orléans, which is a large French spoken language corpus. This is what we're doing right now at the University of Duisburg-Essen, smaller corpora with lots of video though, about human-machine interaction, multimodal communication, and so on. Yeah, and preparing for this conference, I did a proof of concept for the Griffith corpus of spoken Australian English, which was created by Michael Haw, who's not here, but who has the talk after this one, and also for one of the corpora from CLARIN in Slovenia, which Darinka was also just talking about. So it works for those two, but we don't have a living installation for these corpora. And I'm going to hand over to Anna now for research data lifecycle.
Yeah, this is a kind of different perspective on this interface that Thomas just told you about. This is more like how do we integrate the data that we have with this interface. And we also heard about the software lifecycle just in the presentation before us. And we also heard a little bit about different GitHub-based actions. This will also be something I'll say in a minute. So what we think is that we could integrate our data not only at the end of the project, when we would be at the preserve and reuse part of the research data lifecycle, but also while we're currently working with it. And this is something that we did in the project, the Center for Assistive Technologies, so that we can have a continuous data curation, but also while we're still working and creating the data, we can already have it in our interface and analyze and do the queries and different things that Thomas just showed you. And how do we do that is by using GitLab CI-based corpus workflows. The GitLab workflows or pipelines is the same thing as the GitHub Actions. It's just a different tool, which for us is supplied by our university, so it's more open source and not by GitHub. And we have a lot of different parts in this workflow. So the data that we're actually working with and that linguists are still transcribing and annotating and doing manual work on is this blue box in the upper corner. This is like a working transcription. This could be in Elan. It is in our current project. It could also be in Esmeralda or in another transcription tool. And from there, this dark blue arrow is showing our GitLab pipelines. We all converted into the ISO standard TI. This is the ISO standard for spoken language. And from there on, we do some more exporting and converting for it to be directly integrated in the ZuMult user interface. We also have another kind of export. This is a data frame. I will not focus on this right now. And in there, we have kind of indexing functionality. This is also integrated in the pipelines now for the queries to be done. And while this transcription is mostly done manual, in the TI, we also have some kind of automated workflows like part of speech tagging, lemma tagging, and we also have automatic transcription, or mostly we have automatic translation of things that were already transcribed, but there could also be automatic transcription happening. And with the pipelines of the working transcripts, we also have some normalization like typos or everything that is corrected in the working transcription. So people that are manually transcribing don't have to worry about the typos. And this is also just to show you how we integrate that into our working workflow. We have all our documents, for example, the Elan files, which could also be Esmeralda or other ones, and the TI files in our GitLab repository, and just apply all these pipelines automated on top of them. And now I get back to Thomas.
Yeah, okay. The point of this talk is also to show you that this is things built on top of other things. So we took care in this architecture to orient it towards established practices, to integrate existing technology wherever it's available, to be compliant with existing and emerging standards, to exhibit some architectural rigidity, so really stick to these aims here everything with the idea to save on time and effort in software development and have less overhead if the whole thing needs to be adapted. I'm going to explain a little bit more detail. Anna already mentioned that the entry point for this can be the output of different widely used annotation tools. It's been done for Xmeralda-based workflows, Elan, Transcriber, Prat. It would also work with, I don't know, Whisper output. And these things are largely interoperable with each other. They always have been. They're also interoperable with most modern ASR technology. Almost all of them are XML applications, with the exception of Prat. And there's open source code, which is often in Java, which can manipulate this. So this is the first thing where the output formats of the annotation tools are built on top of XML technology, which of course is built on top of Unicode standardization. And then we have an additional layer on top of this, which is the ISO standard on transcription of spoken language, which itself is based on Chapter 8 of the TI guidelines, and which has been developed with a dedicated view to interoperability with established annotation tools. So it's a standard that can actually be used together with the tools that have already been established. And we're using industry standards like WAV for audio and MPEG-4 for video. Doesn't 3 minutes. Okay, that's perfect. Come to the query. This point in time, we're working with MTOS, something that's been developed in the Netherlands, stands for Multi-Tier Annotation Search. It's an Lucene based query mechanism, which can work with the CQP query language, which we found is the most widely used query language for the users we're dealing with. And the nice thing is that this can directly index transcripts in this ISO TI format. We're also using other technology from the CLARIN context. For example, we're doing forced alignment at one point, and we're using mouse for that. We have an interface to Prat via the command line for doing acoustic measurements dynamically in the platform. We're using FFmpeg command line tools for audio-video manipulation, and so on. And this gives us a 3-layer architecture where we have all those things on top of other things, mainly in the so-called business layer, and we can connect them to different file system representations of data, but also to repositories like Cocoon in France. And we have different applications on the front end layer, different applications that can combined be adapted according to the needs for a special corpus and for specific user groups. And to anticipate one question, we're also working on connecting this to CLARIN Federal Content Search. This will probably happen in the next few months. So there's lots of things that have been connected here, put on top of each other, which hopefully means we didn't reinvent too many wheels. And the fact that this is already working on different sites maybe proves, at least up to a point, that the flexibility we want is really there. We're going to continue working on this, hopefully with new funding next year, on further installations, on a full implementation of FCS. We already have the funding for that. There'll be in that same project that's funded an improved documentation and support for that ISO standard, which is somehow central to this whole architecture. And hopefully we'll be able to have that follow-up project accepted where we can work on extending the functionality of this platform. That's it. and I have a couple of selected references for you.
Hi, thank you. Very interesting. So I have a couple of video corpora that I was thinking, how would you treat these? One is a Belgian federal parliament corpus with live interpreting as a second audio channel. So does that work for your system? And another is what would you do with like sign language corpora and the annotations are not transcriptions, but there might be a translation or there are several other layers. How would that work?
Yeah. So the first one is doable. It's challenging, but we already have in the data model the concept of different audio or video recordings. For example, for the things we do in Essen now, we have up to 20 videos from different perspectives on the same event. If you're doing interpreting, you have 2 videos or audios. Yeah, okay, but you have 2 audio perspectives, so to speak, on the same event. So, yeah, for the presentation functionality, this could be handled. So you'd be able to switch between the audios, and then everything else depends on whether you have transcripts and in which form. But I'd be optimistic that the the path is not too long to get that data into the platform. And about sign language data, I'd rather say I'm not sure we can do that, because I guess this is so different from what we've seen so far that it requires its own data models and so on. Might be worth a try, but I can't really say anything about it.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. There is a need for audio data to be aligned, and this is done often manually, but this is very costly. So my question was, did you think about integrating automatic alignment of like automatic segmentation alignment of audio with transcription?
If you want to integrate automatic speech recognition, you can do so, but our experience with this are very mixed. But we're serving a large spectrum ranging from, I don't know, Texas German is a variety of German where automatic speech recognition utterly fails. It just doesn't work. It's German, different German dialects mixed with English words. The same is true for highly interactive data that we have for German, so no chance of using automatic speech recognition there. But if you have something like a media corpus, if you have parliamentary speeches, if you have well-behaved interviews, you can have this as a first step in the pipeline that Anna was showing. Then you can decide whether or not you want to manually correct them. So it's definitely possible to make whatever you get from automatic processes available via this platform, but how exactly you do this depends very much on the individual case.
Yeah, thank you a lot. I've got one question. How do you handle versioning of your data? As I understand it, you have the Git commits inside your repository, but is this also reflected in the front end? And if yes, can I also switch between the versions of the data?
Okay, you can't switch yet. Currently, it's not directly integrated into each other. So we have one version, like one snapshot or tagged version that we have in our interface. But we made the way from the version to the interface a lot quicker. So now we can do it anytime we want. But we try not to have it like directly updating, because this could also be a problem if you put any errors in your code, as you know, and also the XML documents, of course. But we would be able to have them, and currently we would like to have them next to each other with different versions in the interface, but not like directly connected yet, because this could also be a little difficult to actually have like a diff between those versions. Yeah, so we have it a little separated, but we could have any version you want in the interface.